been a couple of weeks, guys. Welcome back to the F1 Reviews channel. I apologise for being gone for 2 weeks. The last thing I uploaded was the review for the Canadian Grand Prix. That was ages ago. It was almost 2 race weekends ago, so I'm sorry about that. But here is the late race review for the French Grand Prix. Today is pretty much the date that we're going to be getting back on schedule, and today I'm going to be telling you guys about the brand new summer schedule I've put in place. So, to start off, on a Monday will be my F1 2018 career mode. On a Tuesday will be the Formula E show. On a Wednesday will be the Formula 1 league racing highlights. So on a Monday, most likely I'm going to stream them, which is what you saw last week. And then on the Wednesday I'll do the highlights, which is something I did last year on my gaming channel. Really enjoyed doing the highlights for those. So that'll be coming out on a Wednesday. On a Thursday, I've been really looking forward to telling you guys about this. There it is, the Formula 1 show. Brand new podcast will be starting every single Thursday. Hopefully, we'll be getting a few guests on, a few different Formula 1 YouTubers. The weekly mailbox will be put into that as well. Formula E questions will obviously go into the Formula E show, which was on the Tuesday. On a Friday, there's currently no videos on a Friday, but what most likely will happen there will be the weekend preview. On a Saturday is the Formula E race review. On a Sunday is the Formula 1 race review. Today, like I said, is a Friday, so I'm bringing out this review pretty quick. Let's just get it done because I want to talk about the French Grand Prix, but also it's the Austrian Grand Prix this weekend, so that is the main focus at the moment. Tomorrow would be the Formula E race review, but there's no Formula E this weekend, so it'll be a day off tomorrow. So actually, tomorrow what I'll do is I'll bring out the highlights instead of on the Wednesday, because we got last week's race. I'll bring out the highlights for the league race, and then on Sunday will be the Austrian Grand Prix race review. So the big things at the moment is Tuesday Formula E show, Wednesday Formula 1 show, Saturday and Sunday work as always. So hopefully that's all good. Let's get into what you're here for. Let's get into the race review for the 2018 French Grand Prix. Now, as I said, I want to keep this one short and snappy because the French Grand Prix has been and gone now. Austria is the focus. So I just want to go through the main talking points. And the biggest one, I think, that you'll be interested to hear my opinions on is the Sebastian Vettel penalty and contact with Valtteri Bottas. Now, I think most of us can agree it was a penalty. I believe it was a penalty. As much as it was a first lap incident, it was a bit of a rookie error from Sebastian, which you don't really see. Probably the last time, off the top of my head, I can think we saw a rookie error from Sebastian was probably the Singapore Grand Prix last year. That massive accident at the start there. Did really enjoy that one. But to be honest with you, very uncharacteristic. But what they didn't pick up on TV, which on the onboards they did show, was after contact with Bottas, a few corners later, he also made contact with Grosjean. So Romain Grosjean, who was outside of the points complaining of damage, wasn't because of his contact with Ocon at the start, or Perez, I think it was actually, I apologise. It wasn't because of his contact with Perez, it was his contact with Sebastian. That's how Sebastian broke his front wing. It wasn't anything to do with the contact with Bottas. So, 2 mistakes very early on from Sebastian was disappointing to see, and to hurt both Grosjean and Bottas's race was not nice indeed. I think the penalty, to be honest with you, I think it was a fair penalty. I do. Although Bottas did finish behind on the road, you don't know that when you're giving out the penalties. You really don't know that. And so there's one reason I think it was perfectly fine, and you can't, just magic up this extreme penalty just so he finishes behind Bottas. You can't do that. So I think the stewards had a difficult time of it, but also you got to remember it was a first lap incident. The biggest thing people are comparing it to is the Verstappen crash with Vettel. Arguably that ruined Vettel's race, and Vettel this weekend ruined Bottas's race. But I think, one, they're such different incidents. Verstappen came from quite far back, almost a dive bomb move Verstappen did in China. Vettel was alongside Bottas, did lock up, so I think that's different there. But it's lap 1. Carnage always happens on lap 1, and that's one of the reasons most of us love Formula 1, but you've got to give it a bit of leeway. It's lap 1. I think the most stupid penalty of all was the Grosjean penalty, and I have said a few times that I do like Grosjean. He is one of my preferred and favoured drivers, so I just want that to be clear. I always make sure, no bias, or I try not to be, but I really think that Grosjean penalty on Perez was so harsh. So harsh. He was sort of being squeezed a little bit to the left by Leclerc, which consequently just meant there was a bit of contact with Perez. And I thought that was really strange to give Grosjean a penalty there. But hey-ho, Grosjean without points again is what I was going to move on to next. I think that's a big story. Points for Leclerc, Grosjean no points. Questions are being asked. Where will Leclerc be next season? Where will Grosjean be next season? The same with Kimi Raikkonen. Those three are the big question marks at the moment. And it's something that I will be discussing in the first ever Formula 1 show next Thursday. But after this weekend, a poor qualifying from Raikkonen, a great qualifying from Leclerc, a pretty poor qualifying from Grosjean. So Leclerc, out of those three Ferrari drivers, if you will, Leclerc is the one performing at the moment. Raikkonen, solid race, P3 in the end, but really was just inherited that just because of other drivers' misfortunes. Ricciardo damage, Bottas damage, Vettel damage. Raikkonen at the start was even behind Leclerc. Leclerc picked up a point in the end, was a bit unlucky, didn't quite manage to pull off the strategy as Sauber wanted, but still to come home with a point. I'm sure they'll be pretty happy with that indeed. But I think, you know, like I said, I only wanted to go through this quickly. Other things of note, for me, the big thing from this weekend was just how far ahead the top teams were. I think it was really interesting, but also a little bit disappointing to see how far the top teams were ahead. I don't know what you guys think about that, but in a completely different league. But after that, the midfield is so tight and jam-packed. I think it's fantastic. Williams just seem to... They're in their own league for sure. Just a few leagues below everyone else, unfortunately, for them. A quiet weekend for them. So that was interesting of note. And I think the final thing to round up on, I was going to mention the Ocon and Gasly crash, but I think that was pretty much a racing incident, to be honest with you. Not really too much to say about that one, but the final thing I did want to mention before I go on to my driver of the day, my race final thoughts and my review, as in out of 10, my score for the race, I just want to mention about McLaren. Really strong start to the season. It's a team that in my predictions I thought would do much better than they have. In my predictions I really thought we were going to get McLaren back this year. I did, and I honestly thought that, and after winter testing, didn't look great, did it? But they showed up in Australia, a 5th place for Alonso. Yes, he inherited it with a bit of luck from the safety car, but after that, they went on a really good streak of points. Both Alonso and Van Dorn were both in the points for about 4 or 5 races in a row. Really solid, but recently, something's happened, and they've just slipped right back down the field again. And arguably, the last 2 races, they've been the second worst car on the grid, and Van Dorn, for me, this weekend, really outperformed Alonso. Didn't quite get a clean run in Q1. Was out. Alonso got a completely clean run and was only a couple of attempts ahead of him. So I really think Alonso, yes, he won Le Mans. And if I wasn't trying to do a quick race review for you guys, I would have probably spoke about that a little bit. But of course, that's going to take away some of his mindset, some of his energy. But very poor weekend from Alonso. Spun twice over the weekend, once in the race. A really, really rookie error from Fernando, something you don't expect. Really looked disinterested, and for me, felt like a race that Fernando was pretty much saying, I've had enough now. You know, I'm ready to move on. And some of the comments he made about, is there really any point? He's got no brakes, got no tyres, he's slow. What's the point? I mean, words to that effect. It wasn't nice to see. And I think that's Fernando saying goodbye to the sport. So that was just something I just wanted to pick up on. Van Dorn I was impressed with this weekend, but still no points. Still no points for Sorokin or Grosjean. Grosjean really is going to have to up his game this weekend in Austria. A track that, to be honest with you, the Haas could easily be the 4th best team. And so a double points finish for the first time this season for Haas, I think, is really on the cards. So driver of the day, I think it's difficult driver of the day, to be honest with you. The fans, the overall majority, gave it to Sebastian Vettel, something which was met with quite a bit of criticism, and I do agree with that to a certain degree, to be honest with you. I don't really see how you can make 2 big incidents ruin 2 people's races on lap 1 and get driver of the day. Yes, it was a good race back through the field, but still, I think the damage was done on lap 1 for me personally, but it was a good race through the field, so I can see to a degree where some people are coming from. But for me, like I say, it wasn't quite what I would call a driver of the day. Lewis Hamilton was in a league of his own. Carlos Sainz had arguably his strongest weekend for a very long time. His strongest weekend for Renault, for sure. And so, for me, he's a contender. Charles Leclerc is a contender. Max Verstappen would be, but he inherited P2 pretty much straight away. And so, can't really give it to him. So, my 3 choices, I'm going to say, one I haven't mentioned yet, actually, is one of them. My 3 picks would be Sainz, Leclerc, and Kevin Magnussen. But, you know what? I'm going to give it to Carlos Sainz. I was really impressed with Sainz this weekend. I was really upset for him, to be honest with you. First lap incidents, utter carnage on lap 1. He was able to inherit P3, and I thought, and at the beginning of the season, Renault I thought were going to be really up there, and I did predict that Sainz would run really well in this race. I did say he would win, I think. bit extreme to be honest with you, but I was thinking, you know what? We could see a podium from Sainz. I thought it could happen, I really did. But that's why I say, just the top 3 teams are just so far ahead. Nothing more Sainz could do. Ended up nurturing that car that was running out of energy at the end. So unlucky. I think it was an MG UK issue on the engine. So disappointed for Carlos Sainz. But ending up with points thanks to that safety car due to Lance Stroll. Sainz, I was really impressed with this weekend. Outperformed Hulkenberg for a second weekend in a row. And so Carlos Sainz is my driver of the day. And my score for the race, you know what? People might think this is higher than it should be, but I really enjoyed Paul Ricard. Really bad impressions going into it. I think most people thought it was going to be a boring race. I really enjoyed it. I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. People would probably say that was a really high number, but overtaking wasn't an issue at all this weekend, and you wouldn't even know about issues in 2018 for overtaking if you'd just seen this race. So, really enjoyed it. I think it was great to see a mix-up of the grid on lap 1. Great to see a bit of carnage on lap 1 as well. So, really enjoyed the Paul Ricard circuit. And you know what? I'm looking forward to seeing it again next year. It's honestly a track that I think I'd like to go to in the future. Bit crazy on the eyes, to be honest with you, but I did really enjoy the French Grand Prix. And that's going to round up my, in quotation marks, short race review. I tried to make it as short as possible, but we've still got on for about 11-12 minutes, so hey-ho. Later on today, guys, will be my preview for the Austrian Grand Prix this weekend. Hopefully you enjoy and stick around for that. Videos, like I say, will be back pretty much daily from now on, so if you're new around here, be lush if you could subscribe, and if you enjoy the content, why not? Guys, thank you for watching as always, and I'll see you in the next one.